Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, your daily yoga podcast with your host Raghunath and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York City, Kaustubha Das. Welcome to the show. Welcome to our Wisdom of the Sages. Well, how was Makeover Monday for you?
I didn't make over anything. You know what I did? I started the Makeover Monday thread on the Discord group.
Okay, so look, what we're going to do is on our for all you Patreon, the Patreon party that's going on, we have this thread that we write, and we have different categories of things we write into. You know, sometimes they're recipes, and sometimes it's music or mantras, and there's a general category. But we started a Makeover Monday. So on Mondays, you can write what you're doing to sort of upgrade your life, and we do by week. You know, the 12-step people, they do this like one day at a time, because some people really struggle with change, especially if they're really got a strong grip on or strong grip on alcohol or drugs, but even more subtle things, food addictions, working out or something. So we want to do things that will upgrade our life to assist our spiritual life. And so what the 12-step people say, you know, just today, I'm not going to do A, B, C, or D. Just today, I'm going to do this. Just today. So we do it like just in a week. It's like breaking down those New Year's resolutions into more bite-sized chunks. So I'll introduce that thread today. I'll write.
Okay. I hope I did it right, but we'll look into it. But I think it's up there now. I had an Ayurveda one too. People had asked for that some time back, and so.
Oh, that's smart.
Yeah.
Wisdom of the Sages is a daily study of yoga wisdom literature, focusing on the Srimad Bhagavatam. Fantastic for yoga teachers, fans of yoga culture who want to add spiritual direction and upgrade their life. Welcome to our show. I guess I should have said that first.
That's okay.
I got a nice, you want to hear something interesting?
Yeah.
We're charting. They randomly send me these charts sometimes, but it's really interesting who listens to this. Apple Podcast, number 34 in Great Britain on religion and spirituality. Sweden, 51. Ireland, we're going to thank NASA for that. She's probably going crazy. We're number 18 in Ireland, thanks to NASA. And Japan, number 2.
Yeah, Japan. We gotta go for number 1. There.
We're going for number 1 in Japan. We came up from number 144. It's so interesting, isn't it?
We had to bring a Japanese guest on or learn Japanese or something. But that's an attainable goal right there.
We can do it. We're so close. Call your friends. Okay. New Zealand, 43.
Okay.
India, 149. Not bad.
Yeah.
We were 49 last year. We dropped 100, I think.
Last year? You mean last
week?
month?
Last year. Okay. Last month. I think they do this weekly.
It's a nosedive.
It's a nosedive in India. But not bad. We're still on the chart. Poland, not bad. 43. Portugal, thanks to Sega, going crazy over there. We are number 17.
Okay.
And then in Singapore, 44.
All right.
Interesting.
Yep. It's just nice to know anybody's listening, but speak of in these distant places.
I know. What? And I got a nice message yesterday. Can I share it with you, Kaustubha?
Please do.
Okay. This was from Instagram.
You're gonna tell us who it's from?
You know,
Is it anonymous?
she didn't tell me I could.
Okay.
I'll just say from B. Could be anyone. Anyone with a B. I had 3 hours of dental work and a complicated extraction this afternoon. Wisdom of the Sages was in one ear, and sweet baby Krishna's face in my mind's eye brought me peace during the procedure. It's good. Good plan.
Good strategy.
You're
Good
going
strategy.
under, like some orthodontist is going in your face with a light and weapons. You need mantras and a meditation.
3 hours. It's pretty brutal.
3 hours. I don't know. Something about bhakti soothes my soul. Of course, then I just left feeling so grateful that the vehicle, meaning her body, got a tune-up so I can continue to serve the Lord in health, rather than resentful that I had to go through such a trauma on a beautiful Monday with a throbbing face.
Hashtag throbbing.
Yeah. Sometimes my administration coworkers get a little petty, and I remind myself who I truly work for and continue to show up every day in love because I work for him, meaning God. I appease them because it is part of what needs to be done to execute the work. But ultimately, I do not work for them. What peace this brings me when I'm tempted to take things personally. I share this with humility. A few ways bhakti has made my life more peaceful and purposeful in a truth-starved world. Thanks for letting me share. Wisdom of the Sages is really all my sangha at the moment.
That was really great. I mean, that was
sweet. Practical
world. Wow.
application of this stuff.
I often think that this is a truth starved. You know, it's said that there are 4 legs of Dharma, and truth is like the last leg, and it's like it's kind of starting to shake. You know, I think in the past, you know, in our recent, you know, current state of affairs, that truth is more flimsy than ever. But you know what I really love about this?
What?
From B is that you say it's a she. B is a she.
B is a she.
So that what she's doing is exactly what the Bhagavad Gita is instructing to do. If you look at Bhagavad Gita 4:10, you know, there's this term used. What is it? Tapas, Jnana tapas, like the fire or the heat of knowledge that you reflect on the knowledge that you've heard, like from these sacred texts, like the Upanishads. There's this verse in the Upanishads that says that the self or the soul should be realized, should be heard of, should be reflected on, and should be meditated on. And that when you reflect on and meditate on these, you know, on these things repeatedly, then all becomes known. Then you actually begin to realize the true nature of the self. So, and you know, that term, jnana tapas, the heat, you know, the fire of knowledge, like how fire purifies certain things, like metals and so on. You know, they're placed in intense heat, and it purifies them. Or the heat of the sun purifies things. That the heat of that, like I'm going through this difficult circumstance, I have to have my body tortured for 3 hours, you know, on a dentist chair, or I have to go to work with people behaving in ways that I don't appreciate. But when I go into that, I reflect on the knowledge that I've heard. Right, I'm not this body. I'm going to go through this, and you know, it's going to end, and I'm going to meditate on God as I go through it. I mean, that's even the higher level, when it's not only the jnana, but it's that bhakti, you know, that I'm going to think of Krishna when I do it. When I go to work, I'm going to practically make the adjustments that I need to do so that I can do this work. But inside, I'm always knowing that I'm not working for any of them. Ultimately, it's this relationship with God that I have.
It was sort of a deep realization in the
and if
coming from someone who's sort of new to all this.
And she said something like, rather than be resentful that I had to go through this operation, which is what a lot of people would do. You know, it's just like, why me? What? Oh my God, life sucks. You know, whatever. Rather than enter into that state of consciousness, let me reflect on the knowledge that I've heard, and then that knowledge, through that heat, through that tension, through that practice, that becomes deeper and deeper. And as we grow older, then we're passing through all the challenges of life on the stage of wisdom. You know, that knowledge, through that reflection, through that applying it in these difficult circumstances and reflecting and meditating on it, it matures to what we call wisdom. And wisdom means now I'm seeing through that reflection like 24 hours a day. And from that platform, we can become deeply absorbed. And from absorption, we can develop divine love. And that's the path that's laid out in Bhagavad Gita. So love it.
I
Thank you.
always think of my death.
Yeah.
I always think like, how am I going to do it? How am I going to do it? How am I going to do it when I'm dying? Like, am I going to, and I always like, I think, am I going to be calm? Am I going to be cool? Is it going to be like romantic, like goodbye? Or is it going to be like tragic? And what will be in my mind?
Yeah.
What will be in my mind? I train, I tell you, I've been doing this regularly for a while now. Right when I hit the pillow, make sure I have this focused picture of Krishna in my mind. I want to be able to, just like, you know, in yoga, you'll say, okay, do a handstand. Some guy just does a handstand. I want to be able to say, you're about to die. Think of Krishna. Boom. I want a perfect picture. Like I know way in advance of what Krishna is going to look like, you know. What to speak of going through an opera. Have you ever done that like she did? Go through going through some surgery and have to think of, you know, focus on Krishna?
I mean, not like a surgery like that. I mean, I've been through stuff for sure, or done, but not quite like that. Have you?
Yeah.
And?
Yeah, it helps. It eases the pain. I breathe, I chant. Depending if they're working in my mouth, I can't chant, but I use it all the time.
Yeah. What to speak of in her second example is like in personal dealings and relationships, you know.
Yeah.
That kind of thought becomes so important.
Yeah. I mean, this too shall pass type of thing is like, this is temporary. This is temporary. This is temporary. That's an ever-going mantra through my head. This is all temporary. Where I'm going to look back at like 10 years from now. Or what to speak of, you know, I'm healthy. What to speak of, I'm very sick. You know what I mean? If I can just appreciate, like, Krishna's given this healthy body right now. When I get really frustrated, like, stop complaining, Raghunath, you're healthy. You know, there's a time where you're going to be sick. When we're new devotees and we read those things like, yes, birth, death, disease, and old age. The first thing that I think about when I read that in a book, you know, the 4 problems of life, birth, death, disease, and old age, I was thinking, it's not a problem. Yeah, death, we're all going to die. Yeah, old age, yeah. Back somewhere down there, yeah. Yeah, sickness, yeah. But you have to be around the block a few times to realize, yeah, old age. It's going to happen. Death, disease. It's real.
Janma mrityu jara vyadi dukkha dosh anudarshanam.
They say this is the real problems of the world.
Yeah. That you anudarshanam, that you have to, darshanam means like to see it, you know, but to in other words, to reflect on it, to reflect that, hey, you know, for the moment, everything may seem great, but it's just a matter of time before disease and old age and ultimately death visit me.
And sometimes disease can happen like in a moment when you're healthy. Yeah. And it can just stay with you. And it's not like it's going to go away. It's really like, these are like not to like, okay, let's create more anxiety in the world. It's to sort of like wake up and start to live our life right now.
Yeah.
It's important. If I have this clarity, if I have this strength, if I have this, why waste a moment while we can? Because there'll be a time where chanting, meditation, spiritual practice might be like practically impossible because we're dealing with, who knows? Good morning. Another good morning, cheery good morning.
No, this is good because I like the way that you kind of play it, just like say a basketball team or whatever, you know, like they have this, they do these things like where you say like, okay, you know, like the coach has a team together, right? And they're saying, we're starting with the ball. This is the first play that we're going to run. Yeah. You know, this is the second play that we're going to run. This is the third. Let's go through it in our mind. In our practice, let's go. So, you know, let's go through this again and again. So when the moment comes, we're just like, we're flowing. We're right there in it, you know? And you're saying like every night, you know, you do a little practice, right? And like, I'm going to bring my mind to God because that moment's going to come. And when that moment's going to come, it's not going to, you're going to be prepared. You're going to be like, oh, I've been practicing for this. I'm ready for this. Yeah. I like it, Raghu.
We got to practice.
Practice. All right.
I like being in my 50s, truthfully. I like it. I like it. It's just like a whole nother vantage point of the world.
Then why do you have to wear the sweatshirt to feel young? What are you doing with that?
This guy just gave me the sweatshirt.
Okay.
Just got it in the mail yesterday.
You ready?
Maybe, yeah, let's start. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narotamam devam saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudiraye. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances to the personality of Godhead Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayeshva badreshu nityam bhagavat sevaya bhagavati uttama bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes in the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service to the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Jnana Tamarandasya Gyananjana Silakaya Chakshurun Madatam Yena Tasma Shri Gurave Namaha.
You know, I wanted to share. I wanted to share something with you about that because you brought up the question: what does the very means of conquest refer to?
Oh yeah, yesterday. What's our very means of conquest?
And I made a guess, and you kind of went along with that, right?
Yeah,
educated guess. I'd like to say.
Our means of conquest means the means of conquest of birth and death. That's what you. That's what you said, and I said I think so too.
That's what I said. Yeah. So here's the commentary from Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur on this verse.
Okay, so what Kaustubha is doing, if you're new to this, is there are different masters who lived historically and have also commented on the whole Srimad Bhagavatam, just like we're reading Swami Prabhupada's commentaries, but it's been commented on for thousands of years. And so Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he was a very famous commentator who lived when in the 1600s, 1700s maybe.
I would think in the 1600s.
Yeah,
something like that.
Very interesting person too. These people.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Okay, so this is the verse that we're chanting everywhere. That particular verse is Canto 1, Chapter 2, text number 4, and it's Sutta Goswami. You know, the speaker of Bhagavatam, you know, beginning as he approaches the topic, he chants that prayer. So he says, after offering, this is the translation in this version, after offering respectful obeisances unto the presiding deities, Narayana Rishi, which, by the way, people have sent me more information on, so I'm going to bring that out too. Okay.
Narayana Rishi.
Not
we're going to get to the bottom of this Narayana Rishi.
Well, part of what we came to is that you never get to the bottom of it.
Yeah.
but we'll deal with that maybe tomorrow or something like that. But after offering respectful obeisances unto the presiding deities, Narayana Rishi, unto the subject of the work Krishna, unto the subject of the work the Bhagavatam, unto the Shakti of the work Saraswati, and unto the sage entrusted with the work Srila Vyasadeva, one should utter Jaya. What does Jaya mean, Raghu?
Victory!
Victory.
It means like right on, hooray!
Yeah. So here's the commentary.
I don't like to say victory because that's all the original. Everyone always translates Jai to victory.
Yeah.
It drives me crazy because it's not. We don't say. No one in America says victory about anything. If you got, hey, Mom, I got A's on my report card. Victory to you. It's some like British thing. It's like an old Victorian thing. Victory.
Victory.
Victory. It means like hooray. That's what it means. Like when they say Astutar Sata Sri Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki. Hooray! That's what it means. It means hooray.
Okay.
Like the Ujjayi breath, the victory breath. Makes no sense.
It's the hooray
do I have
breath.
to translate everything?
Hooray breath makes more sense.
It doesn't make sense either.
Okay, here's the commentary. Having offered respects to Guru, Sutta he had just previously done to Sukadeva Goswami in the previous verse. Sutta offers respects to Devata, the presiding deity. Narayan are designated as the presiding deities of this work since they have authority over the place, which is that Bhadaka ashrama up in the Himalayas. The Devata or the subject of Bhagavatam is Krishna, Narottama, the supermost human being. Saraswati is the Shakti. The word Cha indicates the rishi sage of the work, Vyasa. Some addition, okay, he goes on in this, but then we get to the Jaya thing. Having offered respects to these persons, one should utter Jaya. This is the verb form calling out to Krishna with raised hands. Jaya Shri Krishna. Victory to Krishna. Hooray for Krishna, as Raghu would say. By using the potential case, Sutta
Hallelujah.
teaches,
Probo says hallelujah.
hallelujah, yeah. Sutta teaches the other sages of the Puranas to do the same thing. Now here it says, Jaya also refers to the scripture because one can conquer samsara by studying it. There you go. So the meaning would be one should then speak the Bhagavatam, Jayam. So yeah, conquering over samsara, birth and death, our very means of conquest over birth and death. That's the Bhagavatam. So there you go, Raghu.
Very good.
You asked, I found it.
Thank you.
In your service.
I'm excited for Narayan Rishi. Shed some light on the mystery that is Narayan Rishi. I'm offering obeisances every day. Let's get to the bottom of this. When Lord Krishna passed over public roads, all the ladies from the respectable families of Dwarka went up to... Did
you just dive in? Are you going to tell us the verse and all of that?
I'm sorry. Canto 1, Chapter 11, Text 24.
24 or 22?
Oops. Sorry. I was reading ahead.
Okay, so Krishna's entering Dwarka.
Krishna's entering Dwarka.
Everybody's
the Almighty
excited.
Lord... Sorry. What'd you say?
Everybody's excited.
Everybody's excited.
Including you.
I'd be very excited if Krishna was entering Canaan, New York. Krishna's coming! Krishna's coming.
Would you go up to the roof?
I live in like a farm village. You wouldn't see anybody from way away. No one lives next to each other. The Almighty Lord greeted everyone present by bowing his head, exchanging greetings, embracing, shaking hands, looking and smiling, giving assurances, and awarding benedictions, even to the lowest in rank. Everybody's blessings, blessings, giving blessings. What's that famous story about Lord Chaitanya giving blessings? I bless that you will. I bless that your material life will end, or something like that.
Well, generally, his blessing was, what is it, Krishna Matirastu? That may your mind always be on Krishna. Is that one?
There's a famous story one. You know, people in India, they tend to go to sadhus and say, "Give me blessings, Maharaj. Give me blessings," and they want some basic material blessing. And Lord Chaitanya blessed, may your material life fail. Something like that.
Okay.
I'm not allowed to tell stories unless I actually know them. But in Bhakti, we look at even our failures as blessings. Go on.
There's that story when Haridas Thakura, the great teacher of the mantra, the Hare Krishna mantra, and incredible character. He was thrown in jail because he just wouldn't stop chanting, right? He was born in a Muslim family, but he had, adopted the practices of Bhakti-yogi, and the Muslim government wouldn't tolerate it. And people were becoming influenced by him, so they threw him in jail.
And he wouldn't change. He said, listen, there's one God. It's not against my religion or your religion. It makes no difference.
Yeah.
There's one God here. We're just chanting. I'm not going to give up this practice. Go on.
So now he's in jail with all these prisoners, and they were thrilled to have him there. It's like, oh wow, this great saint. Even the criminals, they were just kind of like, oh,
They were nicer criminals then.
Who knows? They might have just been Hindus thrown in jail just for being Hindu or something like that, right? But in any case, they were like thrilled that he was there, and they were asking him for blessings. And his blessing was, may you remain exactly as you are.
Oh, that was it. Maybe that's the story.
We wanted to get out of here. But I think the idea was because they were so humble and so, in that condition, they had become so perhaps prayerful and humble and so on that he was saying, this is, conducive for your spiritual life. So may you remain like that. So I know that's...
No!
Not that blessing. Give me a different blessing.
Different blessing, like more porridge. I'm starving.
There's that one story about Srila Prabhupada. Do you know that one? Where they're on a train. My guru is with him and Hari Sari and maybe one other person. And they were, on those Indian trains, sometimes they have those private compartments.
Yeah, those are great.
And
this little compartment, you ever sit in one of those?
Yeah, one time. And usually I go what is it? Second class
Second
AC.
class AC.
Yeah.
Traveling in India is an adventure in itself.
Yeah. But so Prabhupada was on this train, and the word was getting around, oh, this very great teacher, this great sadhu was on the train, and these people were trying to get in that door, and my guru was trying to like hold them back because he knew these people were just kind of begging for these material blessings, and Prabhupada just needed to get a little space and a little rest. But these people, somehow they got in there, and then Prabhupada was like, okay, and they'll let him in. And these three men came in, and they're like, Prabhupada, we want your blessings. Please grant us your blessings. And he said, what blessings do you want? And that was kind of like shocked them a little bit. They expected him to just say yes, or something like that. And what exact blessing are you asking for? And they just said these things, like one of them, it was like very materialistic thing. I think the third person was like, my elbow hurts or something like that. It was just like getting
it's really like put on the spot. You can have whatever you want. Okay, what do you want?
And then what Prabhupada did was he pointed to his disciples there, who were all, shaved head, brahmachari renunciates. And he said, this is the blessing I have to offer. Like my blessing is that you give your entire life to God, like that. And they're like, no, we weren't really interested in that.
We're thinking more of like, help me in business. It's been a tough month. It's been a tough first quarter. Can you help me out?
Yeah. He says, this is the blessing I have to give. And they're like, okay. And then they walked out. But anyway, Krishna's, you can see again, this verse is showing how that aspect of, sometimes he's bowing his head to his seniors, sometimes he's granting benedictions to his juniors, he's reciprocating with everyone according to the Vaishnava etiquette, but it's very pleasing to everyone in whichever way it's coming. All right.
Continue on. Then the Lord personally entered the city accompanied by elderly relatives and invalid brahmanas with their wives, all offering benedictions and singing the glories of the Lord. Others also praised the glories of the Lord. Keep going.
Yeah.
When Lord Krishna passed over the public roads, all the ladies from the respectable families of Dwarka went to the roofs of their palaces just to have a look at the Lord. They considered this to be the greatest festival.
Yeah, let's read some of this commentary.
It's sort of like a parade, right?
Yeah.
So when a famous person is coming and everyone's waving from the roofs.
It's kind of like parades or imitations of this in a sense, right?
Right. Yeah, this is like the original parade.
Yeah.
Like, what do we have parades about?
When the sport team wins.
Columbus Day, like after,
those kind of holidays, Columbus Day,
which is
St.
like
Patrick's.
Quickly getting ridden off the mat. Columbus Day, people.
I'm wondering what's going to happen with the New York Rath Yatra. I assume it's not going to happen this year.
I know. I have a day off for it too. I always end up working on that day. Now anyway. All right.
Read that first paragraph.
To have a look at the Lord is a great festive occasion, undoubtedly, as it was considered by the metropolitan ladies of Dwarka.
City girls.
This is still followed by the devout ladies of India, especially during the days of Julan and Janmashtami ceremonies. The ladies of India still throng up in the greatest number at the temples of the Lord, where his transcendental eternal form is worshipped. The transcendental form of the Lord installed in a temple is not different from the Lord personally. Such a form of the Lord is called Archa Vigraha, or Archa incarnation, and is expanded by the Lord by his internal potency, just to facilitate the devotional service of his innumerable devotees who are in the material world. By the way, I find there's two different types of people coming into bhakti. One who think, wow, a deity. This is incredible. And I've seen people have this effect. They walk in front of the deity and they're like, oh my God, and their mind is blown. And then there's people who walk in front of a deity and are like, this is so weird. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
I was the this is so weird guy for the longest time. I was like, okay, I get it all. but this is weird. What were you?
I think I was
You
the
fit
other.
into that category, one of
No,
those
I
two
was more like,
categories?
my God, it's so beautiful. I was like that.
Oh, you were the most beautiful. All right.
Yeah.
What was I just more sinful? Was I more sinful? Was that it?
I think because you're telling you had your friends that were
Oh yeah.
that were, remember, they were telling you like, do you know what they do in there?
It was true. We would go to the temple. I might as well tell the story. We'd go to the temple, but we sort of like, thought it was weird and peculiar, but we went because we liked it. We liked some facets about it. And then I was like, you know what? I need a place to live. Maybe I should just move in that temple in Brooklyn. And they said, and I thought they were sort of more spiritual than me, but they said, you can't move into that temple. You know what they do if you move into that temple? I said, what? They're like, if you move into that temple, you know those gigantic dolls they have? I was like, yeah. They make you dress those dolls. I was like, you're kidding.
No. So you were probably,
forget it.
when you went in there, you were probably thinking, oh my God, those are the dolls that they make you dress. It probably could totally influenced your experience.
It might have influenced.
It might have. When I first went, this is like the Brooklyn Temple, right? Radha Govinda Mandir in Brooklyn. When I first went, I was going with all these guys, right? Like all the, Harley Flanagan and, guys like
Chromax guy, Louis Bloodclot, he's on the show now.
Guys like Richie Stig and Steve Squint, and, all my friends from back then. And it was Sunday Feast. The kirtan there was so unbelievable. You had Virkeshwar Pandit and Lochanananda and all these, incredible kirtan.
New York was famous for very powerful kirtans.
Man, it was, and so we'd be, and New York Temple's big, and the deities are just like powerful. And the whole mood, like going in there with my friends who were so into it, was we would dance like crazy in that kirtan. Like Rakesh, it was like insane. And then you would sit down and you were like all hot and sweaty and in front of those beautiful Radha Govinda deities. And then Lochanananda would sing the Nrsingadev prayers. And I mean, it was just like you were like floating in heaven. It was like incredible. And so my first experience with those deities was really like that. Like all my friends were totally into it. So whatever, you were prepared the other way, right? I was prepared this way.
I was prepared through cynicism, because all your friends, I thought you guys were really crazy. Me and Kaustubha didn't really know each other that well back then. I thought Kaustubha and all his friends were a little crazy. And I always just sort of like went on my own, sort of just like looking around, sort of freaked out, sort of this is weird.
I see. Right.
So I had nobody to sort of take me by the hand. Come on, Raghu, let me show you what to do. It's just weird.
Right. Yeah, I could see how that would be.
You dove right into it, and these guys, they're my friends. They accept this.
Yeah.
I didn't really know.
Okay.
It was a big leap.
I get it. You made it though. You made it to the other side.
I'm still working on it. But anyway, it is. These are these potent items of bhakti that can actually change your life, as described in the Nectar of Devotion. 1 is the kirtan. 2 is the association of devotees. 3 is to see the deities. Those 3 things, then you have a class in the Bhagavad Gita or Bhagavatam. Here in the Bhagavatam, these items are considered so powerful. They can give a neophyte, someone who's just walking in from the Lower East Side of New York, it can make them feel what it feels like to be a Paramahamsa. It can give them a glimpse. And I've seen that effect with people and deities. They go in front of the altar and they just go, oh my God. And it's like nothing before. And then what to speak of, and Kaustubha, you can share this too, because I know you do. I've done a lot of pujari work at temples too. When you actually get a second initiation and you take care of those deities, and it's like a whole nother world opens up.
Dress them. You dress them.
Put them to bed, wake them up. There's so many things going back there that are even more crazy, but they're really interesting and they really work. That's the interesting thing. It really works.
Well, what's happening in this commentary is Srila Prabhupada, the verse spoke about Krishna's entering Dwarka and the ladies went up on the roof and they were looking down on him. So that's darshan, right? This term darshan, which is a very, commonly used, important term in bhakti, but in Hinduism in general. You go to the temple, you have darshan, and darshan means to see. So what's taking place? Srila Prabhupada's drawing a parallel here. He's saying what those women were doing, like we are eager to gaze at his form, right? And when we do, there's a transformation that's taking place. So Prabhupada's saying like what those women were experiencing, we can experience by going to a temple. And Prabhupada's saying, and the ladies are doing this even up till today. That, and he said, and particularly on these big holidays, you know, thousands and thousands will go to these temples to gaze at the form of the Lord. And then he's saying now that's not just a material form, that Krishna, in a sense, takes that form so that we can have this experience. And then that experience can go deeper into what you're saying. Then there's what's called the seva, or the service that's done. And that service, this is real important to understand. The point to is that it's not that Krishna needs the service, right? But it's that it accustoms our mind to finding beauty and satisfaction and fulfillment through service, because our mind is programmed the other way, right?
Right.
And so like you're saying right now, actually, I love doing this service, right? What seems so bizarre to you at one point in your life, when your knowledge and your understanding matured, and then you began to engage in that, you understood that this is actually effective meditation. I might sit down and someone tells me to meditate on a golden pyramid, full, you know, or these different things that people put you through in meditation classes. This is a type of meditation that's actually transforming my mind and my heart in a very dynamic way. And it does, right?
Yeah. What does my wife call it? An access point. The deities are like an access point, I find, just like almost like another dimension.
Mm-hmm.
Well, tell me what you think about this. Tell me what you think. I want to hear your opinion on this, because this is how I explain it, but I want to make sure I'm philosophically correct. The deity becomes the deity to the degree that you worship it as the deity. Otherwise, it just becomes stone again.
I would say that the deity reciprocates with you to the degree that you, whether you understand it or not, that's Krishna. But your ability to understand that will be reciprocated according to your faith and your attitude.
Okay.
Right.
I'll take that.
Because it doesn't, you know, two people can be standing before the same deity with different levels of faith. It's not their level of faith that determines whether that God is manifest there. It determines whether or not they perceive it. Right. Their attitude. Yeah. But you said access point. And I say, yes, access point and more than access point, but it is.
How about vortex? Vortex. A spiritual vortex.
As long as you don't say Fibonacci spiral, I'm okay with it. But there's an analogy that's used. You know who wrote a brilliant book on this is Krishna Kshetra Prabhu, you know, who wrote like a PhD.
Yeah.
You know, on this, you know.
I didn't read it, but I know who he is.
And he used an analogy that it's like, for instance, some people might say, why do we need this material manifestation of God? God is everywhere.
Right. That's a big one. God is everywhere. I don't need an altar. God is everywhere.
Or they may say, God is in my heart. And those are two manifestations. It's a fact. But how capable are we of accessing God everywhere? Or how capable are we of accessing, you said access point, right? Accessing God within the heart. So the example that's used is like understanding, like realizing and experiencing God within the heart, or God everywhere. That can be like if you're digging for water and you're trying to get water by digging through the ground, like digging a well. That is like incredibly hard work, and you know, and it can, you know, you may never get there, you know, digging, hitting rock, somehow blasting through it, digging deeper. It's very difficult. Whereas if there's a lake on the surface, then the waters are just right there. And so the idea is that it'll be very hard for me to bring my mind into deep absorption in God being everywhere, or that you have to work towards that realization. But you can stand in front of the deity and immediately have access to God, you know. And so therefore having that deity there makes it so much easier. It's also a way to engage the senses, engage the eyes, right? And if you're doing the personal service, engage I've described on the show before, you know, my wife does puja every morning. We have Radha Krishna deities. And the meditation, the ceremony is very beautiful. It's beautiful prayers. They're sung beautifully. There's beautiful oils that are being offered. There's beautiful, flowers that are being offered.
It's aesthetically incredibly beautiful. Your
Yeah.
senses are completely engaged, and like, who buys oils? You know what I mean? They're all
well, they buy them for themselves, right?
They buy them for themselves, for their own bodies, right?
But here the attitude is, it's all service. So again, like what's happening in the ceremony, in the rite, or in the puja, is that, dear Lord, please sit down. Please let me offer you this. Please let me, just as if he were a guest in the home. And it's also a way of saying, dear God, please sit down here in my heart, sit down in my mind, and stay here. But with all the beautiful aesthetics that go with it, the beautiful prayers, the beautiful sentiments, the beautiful aromas and visions and so on, the mind will begin to change. And again, yoga is a practice which empowers one to overcome the obstacle of the mind for the purpose of the self, experiencing its own true nature. So it's bringing the mind to the true nature of the self. And if you do it day after day after day after day, then that practice becomes firmly rooted. It becomes, very transformational. So it's a science. To an outsider, it appears bizarre. It appears, it may appear weird. But to the insider, they can really understand that this is a beautiful, effective.
It's a fast track.
It's a fast track. Yeah.
It's a fast track
to spiritual transformation. Yeah. Shall we continue with this?
Yeah. I need a fast track.
Me too.
I like fast tracks. Where do we leave off, my friend?
Well, he said this sentence, he said, okay, the transcendental form of the Lord is installed in a temple is not different from the Lord personally. Such a form of the Lord is called Archa Vigraha, or Archa Incarnation, and is expanded by the Lord by his internal potency, his spiritual potency, not the material potency, but the spiritual potency, just to facilitate the devotional service of his innumerable devotees who are in the material world. The material senses cannot perceive the spiritual nature of the Lord, and therefore the Lord accepts the Archa Vigraha, which is apparently made of material elements like earth, wood, and stone, but actually there's no material contamination. The Lord being Kaivalya, one alone, there is no matter in him. He is one without a second, and therefore the Almighty Lord can appear in any form without being contaminated by the material conception. He's not limited by it. Therefore, festivities in the temple of the Lord, as held generally, are like festivals performed during the manifestive days of the Lord in Dwarka about 5,000 years ago. The authorized acharyas, the great teachers in the tradition, who know the science perfectly, install such temples of the Lord under regulative principles just to offer facilities to the common man. But persons who are less intelligent, without being conversant with the science, mistake this great attempt to be idol worship and poke their nose into that which they have no access.
It's what they do. They poke their nose in. If you think about all the people that have come to India, kings that have come to try to dominate India, and India is very wide open. They have a very wide gate, and it's woven into their teachings. Come, welcome, and they're just sort of like, this is idol worship, and they don't understand the very essence of the teaching. Is that it doesn't matter what culture you're from, what country you're from, what body type you have. There's one divine source, and we're all spiritual beings. And it's a very, very refined way and powerful, fast track to understand a connection with divinity without, right? Like they say, this is a quick way to eat a pakora. You put it in your mouth. There's a difficult way. You put your hand around your head, around your ears, try to shove it in your mouth. There's a fast track right here. They poke their nose in. All the horrible things they've done to temples, and there's something like 1,700, at least, beautiful works of art, razed to the ground in India by invaders, foreign invaders.
Well, and that's one type of foreign invasion. But I think especially what's being referred to in this commentary, like it's kind of alluded to, is, Srila Prabhupada grew up in Calcutta at the turn of the century. And, in the late part of the 19th century, there was a kind of a movement in Calcutta was the intellectual capital of India. And there was kind of a movement through the influence of the British, that certain Hindu leaders, influential Hindus, were trying to kind of like, trying to present Hinduism in a way that was more acceptable to the Western thought. And not only just present it, but actually change it according to the Western thought. And so, whereas the British saw the Archa Vigraha, the temple worship, as being very primitive, like that's a totally primitive thing. It's like the kind of thing that
totems.
Yeah, exactly. That's a totally primitive thing. We are Christian and we're civilized, and that is your totally uncivilized, primitive idea. So they began to try to remove that from Hinduism. And what Prabhupada is saying is here, no. Actually, you need to understand it properly. It's not primitive. It's actually something, very deep.
Deep, evolved.
It's something very evolved.
And you're poking your nose in something you can't understand. You can't understand because it came in with a big type of arrogance. We're going to teach these guys. We're going to educate these tribal people. Yeah, that was the mood, and that's the narrative that still is around.
It's still around.
It's still around, especially if you're studying Hinduism in the academic worlds. You'll find that's still the narrative. That's why to reestablish, the power of the Vedas and the beauty of the Vedas, of the teachings, of the culture, I think it's important. It's to
they have this the Aryan invasion theory, right?
Yeah.
That when you look at all that's there in that culture, all that's there in the Vedic literature, the sciences that grow out of it, the beauty and the sophistication of the poetry and the depth of the theology and the depth of the philosophy and all of this. Once you've seen it, you still can't, you can justify your conquering of the people when you see them as primitives.
Sure. And cultures use that all the time when they want to go in and invade a place.
Exactly.
You depersonalize them. You think we're going to help them. It's our manifest destiny.
Right. And so the Christian scholars that were coming into India, they could see the depth of this culture. So then they created what's called the Aryan invasion theory, where, actually all of this came from Europe.
Came from Europe anyway.
Yeah,
we're just taking back what was ours originally.
Yeah, which is, and they put that forward with the different arguments. Edwin Bryan has written quite a bit on this, so in any case, that the question of this temple worship is kind of lying right in the middle of all of this discussion. Is this some primitive thing that only the most, some bizarre ritual that only the most primitive people would do? Or is it something that's, as you're saying, very evolved? It's a very beautiful, esoteric, dynamic, evolved form of meditation that, as you're saying, is a fast track of drawing out the true nature of the soul. So as I read this commentary from Srila Prabhupada, I kind of feel he's addressing that, here. They're sticking their nose into it. They don't know what it really is.
Yeah. You like that? Fast track? Let's keep that.
Fast track.
It's a fast track. Next verse. Oops. I went to next verse. I went to next page of faces by mistake. Okay. Text 24. When Lord Krishna passed over the public
25. Roads, we just read 24.
Sorry about that. Text 25. The inhabitants of Dwarka were regularly accustomed to look upon the reservoir of all beauty. That's Krishna. They were accustomed to look upon the reservoir of all beauty.
They became accustomed to his face. Right? You know that song?
No.
Is that how it goes? I've grown accustomed to your face. I think that's Sinatra or something like that. Anyway.
No.
I don't mean to divert.
You're such a diverter. Reservoir of beauty, the infallible Lord, yet they were never satiated.
You were just talking about, you just said that earlier today, didn't you? It's about songs. You said that, maybe was that, were we on the show or was that before?
I think we had a pre-show talk, and then you and I had we had our own little party before the whole thing started this morning at 4:30 a.m. Yeah, we were saying that in spiritual songs, they never get dull. Like we play this intro song, this outro song, and you're always looking forward to it. It's never like, I'm sick of this song, because transcendent music and mantras never get old. That's the thing with chanting. You can chant a mantra, and the first time you've ever chanted the Maha Mantra on beads, and we recommend everybody, especially if you're listening on Zoom, you should get some malas, or you can make them. I made my own malas once. You can chant one mantra on each bead, and you do that all the way around the whole garland of beads, which is 108 times, and do it as a sonic meditation where you're just focusing only on that mantra and not letting your mind go all over town, and just hear that mantra. Now, when you do it and you're new to it, it'll be tough. You're going to realize it's hard to control my mind. My mind is all over the place. I can't do this. And then all of a sudden, which is very different, and sometimes you get frustrated, angry, I can't do this. And then all of a sudden, you develop a taste for chanting, and you enjoy chanting. You look forward to chanting. You know exactly where your beads are when you wake up in the morning, so you can start chanting. You do like to do it first thing in the morning. You hate to do it later in the day. And it becomes, what was once very bitter becomes very sweet, where the material world is the opposite, right?
Yeah.
It's sweet. It's sweet. Oh, it's so sweet. Oh, what have I done?
No flavor left.
What have I done? Right? It starts off sweet and ends up, what have I done? That's the material world. It's just like regret after regret. And so we encourage the things that appear bitter, but make us feel very joyous in the long run. So this mantra music is like that. It doesn't even appear bitter when the kirtan is so good. Jamuna Jai wrote on the message board, I went into Radha Govinda temple, my second time I ever heard of Bhakti. I heard Achyuta and Ananta sing.
Boom.
And that was it.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're very powerful kirtan singers.
Want to read the commentary?
Yes. Of 25. When the ladies of the city of Dwarka got up on the roofs of their palaces, they never thought that they had previously many times seen the beautiful body of the infallible Lord. This indicates that they had no satiation in desiring to see the Lord. Anything material seen for a number of times ultimately becomes unattractive by the law of satiation. Isn't that true?
It's true.
It's like a kid getting a toy. I want that toy. I want that toy. I want that toy. You get the toy, it's like, I'm bored. It gets old quick.
I mean, you think how this plays out in relationships too, and marriages and so on, right? If you go into it out of material attraction, then
based on beauty, love soon dies.
Yeah. Where's that from, Raghu?
Shakespeare and Shelter.
Gotcha. My two favorite sources of cultural
wisdom. Based on beauty, love soon dies. That is a great point, though. This indicates that they had no satiation and desire to see the Lord. Anything material seen for a number of times ultimately becomes unattractive by the law of satiation. The law of satiation acts materially, but there's no scope for it in the spiritual realm. The word infallible is significant here.
Achyuta.
Because although
you just said Achyuta too.
What's that?
You just said Achyuta. The word
I just said
infallible
Achyuta,
in the verse is Achyuta. Yeah.
The word infallible is significant here because although the Lord has mercifully descended to the earth, he is still infallible. The living entities are fallible because when they come in contact with material world, they lack their spiritual identity. And thus the body materially obtained becomes subjected to, we were just talking about this, birth, growth, transformation, situation, deterioration, and annihilation under the laws of nature. The Lord's body is not like that. He descends as he is and is never under the laws of the material gunas or modes. His body is the source of everything that be, the reservoir of all beauties beyond our experience. No one, therefore, is satiated by seeing the transcendental body of the Lord, because there are always manifestations, newer and newer beauties. The transcendental name, form, qualities, entourage, etc. are all spiritual manifestations, and there's no satiation in chanting the holy name of the Lord. There's no satiation in discussing the qualities of the Lord, and there's no limitation of the entourage of the Lord. He's the source of all and is limitless. This is the beauty about this stuff. You can go deep. Like you can hear a class, and you can hear that class for hours. Sometimes Radha Swami will give a class for many, many hours. Sometimes you can hear a kirtan that goes on for many, many hours.
And yet we've run out of time, Raghu.
Yes.
Although we're unsatiated.
We are insatiated. Wisdom of the Sages is a listener-supported podcast. If you'd like to support our service and go deeper in the teachings and practices of Bhakti-yoga, you can join our Patreon page at patreon.com/wisdom of the sages, where we host more classes and readings. Join that Patreon party by subscribing on Patreon. You also get access to our Discord community discussion forum, where we all get to know each other and share all kinds of relevant content. Tomorrow I'll be giving a sweet baby Krishna class at 7 p.m. Thanks for everybody for joining us. Thanks for everybody joining us later on Zoom that I didn't say good morning to. I usually say good morning to all the Zoom people. Devaki G, Tristram, Lynn Reef, Kamania. Special guest Sunday, His Holiness Sachi Nandana Swami, incredible soul. Living in Germany, but travels the world internationally. I've known him for about 35 years. Incredible soul. You're going to love him. And write in your questions to Mara for Question Day, which is Saturday, 8 a.m. Eastern Time. Wisdom of the Sages 108@gmail.com. That's our email here. And if you're one of the others out there that we never hear from, you just listen to us in your podcast without telling us you're out there, write us a letter. Let us know if it's affecting you, or if you like what we're doing, or if we can improve in any way. In the meantime, it's singing time. This is where I review the Zoom people and see if they're dancing. Jai Shri Krishna Bolo Jai Radhe. Thanks for everybody on Zoom here that's bringing their family, bringing their dogs, bringing their kids, bringing their next door neighbor. Shri Radhe.